Welcome to Institutional Repositories and Open Access. Why and how to submit your work to scholarship and creative works at Digital UNC. This video is a condensed version of the workshop given in October 2018 by myself, Jane Munson, as part of the University of Northern Colorado Library's Researcher Workshop series. All accompanying materials, including these slides with clickable links, are available at the website shown. You can also find this URL in the YouTube description. This video will provide you with an overview of UNC's Institutional Repository, or IR, and how it can benefit you as a scholar and researcher. You will gain an understanding of how open access and copyright relate to IRs, and learn how to upload your work into UNC's IR, Scholarship and Creative Works at Digital UNC. Open Access, or OA, is a relatively new scholarly publishing model that aims to make scholarship more widely accessible to both academics and the general public. Peter Suber, in his very brief article, An Introduction to Open Access, characterizes open access scholarship as being digital, online, free of charge, and free of most copyright and licensing restrictions. OA is made possible by the Internet and the consent of the author or copyright holder, and it is entirely compatible with peer review. OA publications are not free to produce, but they are less expensive than conventionally published literature. A more succinct definition of OA is provided by the Scholarly Publishing and Academic Resources Coalition, or SPARC. OA is the free, immediate, online availability of research articles, coupled with the rights to use these articles in the digital environment. It's important to understand that in order to be truly open, a journal article or other publication must allow for both unrestricted access and unrestricted use on the part of the user. In other words, the user must be able to access the publication for free and reuse the content without copyright restriction. The open access movement began in the 1990s and was formalized in the early 2000s, with a number of public statements made by members of the academic community. The most prominent were the 2002 Budapest Open Access Initiative and the 2003 Berlin Declaration on Open Access. As reflected by the Budapest Open Access Initiative, the goals of the open access movement are lofty. The statement reads, in part, that removing access barriers to literature will accelerate research, enrich education, share the learning of the rich with the poor and the poor with the rich, make this literature as useful as it can be, and lay the foundation for uniting humanity in a common intellectual conversation and quest for knowledge. Without an understanding of the issues that gave rise to the OA movement, such a statement may sound overblown. However, the movement has been spurred by real and important inequities in scholarly research dissemination. A summary of the problem that open access tries to address is outlined thusly by SPARC. The current system for communicating research is crippled by a centuries-old model that hasn't been updated to take advantage of 21st century technology. Our current system for communicating research uses a print-based model in the digital age. Even though research is largely produced with public dollars by researchers who share it freely, the results are hidden behind technical, legal, and financial barriers. These artificial barriers are maintained by legacy publishers and restrict access to a small fraction of users, locking out most of the world's population and preventing the use of new research techniques. The fundamental mismatch between what is possible with digital technology, an open system for communicating research results in which anyone, anywhere can contribute, and our outdated publishing system has led to the call for open access. Furthermore, the traditional scholarly publishing model perpetuates a vicious cycle. Governments provide most of the funding for research, hundreds of billions of dollars annually, and public institutions employ a large portion of all researchers. Researchers publish their findings without the expectation of compensation. Unlike other authors, they hand their work over to publishers without payment in the interest of advancing human knowledge. Through the process of peer review, researchers review each other's work for free. Once published, those that contributed to the research, from taxpayers to the institutions that supported the research itself, have to pay again to access the findings. The end result is that, although research is produced as a public good, it isn't freely available to the public who paid for it. To add insult to injury, scholarly publishers have some of the highest profit margins of any corporate entity. For example, Elsevier, one of the largest scholarly publishers, has an annual corporate profit margin of around 40%. To the layperson, this number may not sound entirely unreasonable. But when compared with the profits of other major corporate entities, the imbalance becomes starkly apparent. As shown by this graph, Elsevier's profit margin dwarfs those of major players in the banking, automotive, and retail industries. The astronomical profits of scholarly publishers are made possible not only by an essentially unpaid labor pool in the form of academic authors, peer reviewers, and editors, but also by the skyrocketing cost of journal subscriptions. In the 1980s and 90s, subscription prices for journals began to rise much faster than the rate of inflation, a trend that continues today. As this graphic from the Association of Research Libraries shows, subscription prices for journals, or serials in the library parlance, rose over 300% between 1986 and 2005. This unsustainable pattern leaves libraries increasingly unable to afford the publications their faculty and students need. And often in the case of faculty, the very publications that they have contributed to or helped produce. This issue has been dubbed the serials crisis by academic librarians, and it has spurred many in the academic library community to advocate for open access as a way to address the problem. OA advocates assert that open access has tangible benefits for those in academia, as well as the general public. For researchers, these benefits include wider exposure to and higher citation counts for their work, and the possibility that this work will have a greater impact and be used by researchers and practitioners who might not otherwise be able to access it. Members of the public benefit by being able to access research for which their tax dollars have paid, as well as being the beneficiaries of innovations made possible by the wider dissemination of research and scholarship. The rise of the OA movement has resulted in a new model of scholarly publishing in the form of open access journals. These publications utilize the same quality control mechanisms as traditional journals, namely peer review, but unlike conventional journals, they are freely and openly available online. While OA journals do not charge readers to access content, they may rely on fees charged to authors to cover editorial and publication costs. This is known as the author pays model. Though OA journals have been around for years and are now a common feature of the scholarly landscape, they remain misunderstood by many in the academic community. Myths that persist about OA journals include the belief that they are of lesser quality than traditional journals, are not peer-reviewed, always cost money to publish in, and require that the author relinquish the copyright to their work. Finally, many believe that open access is synonymous with predatory publishing, a phenomenon which we will look at more closely later in this video. To confuse matters further, there are several different types of open access journal publishing. These types can be divided into 4 categories. The first type is green OA, or self-archiving. After publication, the author archives a version of the article, usually a peer-reviewed postprint, for free public use in their institution's online repository, in a disciplinary or subject repository such as PubMed Central, or on another openly accessible website. The second type is Gold OA, or publishing in an open access journal. In this case, the article is published in an open access journal that provides immediate open access to all of its articles on the publisher's website. Thirdly, the term hybrid open access is used to describe an open access model where a journal provides gold open access only for those individual articles for which an open access publishing fee has been paid by the author or the author's institution or funder. Finally, with delayed access, the journal publisher provides free access to the article following the expiration of an embargo period, typically 1 to 2 years after the initial publication date. As mentioned, Green OA allows for a specific version of the article to be self-archived, and the version allowed is generally stipulated in the publishing agreement. It may be a preprint, which is the author's copy of the article before it's been reviewed by the publisher; a postprint, the author's copy of the article after it's been reviewed and corrected, but prior to final formatting for publication; or the publisher's version, the final version of the article as it appears in the journal. Increasingly, funding agencies and governments at the national and international levels are making open access a requirement by mandating that research resulting from grants and other funds be made available via open access repositories. Examples of funders that have established OA mandates include the National Institutes of Health and the European Union. The Registry of Open Access Repository Mandates, or RORMAP, is a searchable international database of OA mandates. At UNC, the Faculty Senate passed a resolution in 2010 that encourages faculty to publish their work in open access publications whenever feasible, and also encourages deposit of this work in the IR. In 2013, a faculty publication fund was established to provide financial support for faculty who incur costs associated with journal and book publishing, including open access fees. Finally, it is worth returning to the issue of predatory publishing alluded to earlier. Predatory publishing is in many ways the dark side of open access, and it has had the unfortunate consequence of tarnishing the movement in the eyes of many. Predatory publishers have taken advantage of the OA publishing trend by exploiting the author pays model for profit. Reputable OA publishers use author fees to cover costs associated with peer review and editing, which ensure a high-quality product. Predatory publishers will collect these fees without providing the same type of vetting and quality control services, so the resulting publications do not meet the standards typically expected of scholarly journals. Predatory journal publishers often aggressively solicit submissions and will publish virtually anything as long as the required fee is paid. The result for unsuspecting authors who accidentally publish in these journals is that their work is viewed as not having been legitimately peer-reviewed and therefore not acceptable for professional purposes like promotion and tenure. Many academics are, understandably, wary of OA publications for this reason. However, there are a number of red flags that can allow authors to screen out predatory publishers relatively easily. Signs of a predatory publication include emailed invitations to submit articles, a name that is similar to another prominent journal in the field, a website that has an outdated or unprofessional appearance, an extremely broad publication scope, for example, not limited to a single discipline, and promises of an unusually speedy peer review process. Finally, predatory journals will not be included in your library's bibliographic databases and indexes. If you're in doubt about the legitimacy of an OA journal, there are resources to assist you in your evaluation. The Directory of Open Access Journals is a searchable directory of OA journals that have been vetted for quality, while the website of the Open Access Scholarly Publishers Association provides a list of member organizations that publish legitimate OA journals. The blog Stop Predatory Journals maintains a blacklist of possibly predatory journals, and the website Think, Check, Submit guides authors through the process of identifying trusted journals for their research. Finally, your subject librarian can help you answer questions about journal quality and identifying credible publications. One result of the OA movement and serials crisis has been the development of institutional repositories, or IRs. IRs have become a commonplace at academic institutions and are intended to preserve and showcase the scholarly output of faculty and students. They provide open access to materials such as journal articles, book chapters, theses and dissertations, and unpublished gray literature like presentations and reports. IRs are similar to, but separate from, another class of repository that collects materials of a specific type, such as research data or work in a specific subject or discipline, regardless of the author or researcher's institutional affiliation. Prominent examples include the Inter-University Consortium for Political and Social Research and the Social Science Research Network, which both archive and make available research in the social sciences, archive.org, a repository of electronic preprints in the sciences, and PubMed Central, a database of free literature in the sciences and biomedicine. A third type of repository that has become popular in recent years is the academic social networking site, the most well-known examples being Academia, ResearchGate, and Mendeley. There is, however, a big difference between these types of platforms and institutional or subject repositories. Like other social networking sites, they are created by commercial entities that are motivated mainly by profit, as opposed to repositories run by nonprofit educational organizations and government agencies. Since these services depend on profits to continue operating, they make no promise of long-term preservation or access to the content that authors submit. These repositories are not open access, since an account is required to view them, and services like ResearchGate and Academia do not permit their users to take their own data out and reuse it elsewhere. For these reasons, putting your work in an academic social networking site is not a suitable substitute for making it available via an institutional or subject repository. The University of Northern Colorado's institutional repository is called Scholarship and Creative Works at Digital UNC. The IR collects and organizes work into different types of collections, including student work, faculty publications, research data sets, journals, and event communities for conferences and workshops held on campus. A popular feature of the UNC IR is that it collects usage and readership statistics showing how often work is downloaded and from what location it is being viewed. These statistics can be viewed in the aggregate on the IR homepage, and individual monthly usage statistics are supplied via email to authors who submit their work. Within the student research collections, graduate student work, including dissertations, capstones, theses, and equivalent projects, otherwise known as ETDs, or electronic theses and dissertations, are made openly available. Starting in fall 2019, all graduate students will be required to deposit their ETDs in the IR. Undergraduate honors theses are also captured here. Graduate and undergraduate students may submit other types of work with the support of a faculty member who must sign a student research sponsor form. Faculty collections within the various campus disciplines showcase journal articles, data sets, and other research outputs of UNC faculty. The IR also acts as a publishing platform for open access journals produced on campus. The system provides article submission, editing, and peer review workflows for authors and journal editors, and allows readers to openly access all journal content. With the event community feature, campus organizers can create a web presence for conferences and other events. The system can be used for presentation and proposal submission and review, and allows organizers to archive conference materials and make them accessible over the long term. There are a number of benefits to depositing your work in Scholarship and Creative Works at Digital UNC. The IR helps you comply with funder mandates for making publications and data publicly accessible, and offers an effective and convenient way to organize and preserve your work. The platform provides a reliable storage space with a permanent, stable URL assigned to each submission, and the UNC libraries are committed to maintaining and preserving the content in perpetuity, likely much longer than a personal or faculty website or an academic social networking site will be around. The IR also helps you track the impact of your work by providing individualized readership statistics. Authors can access a readership map showing them where their specific works are being downloaded and read around the world. These statistics are conveniently provided via a monthly email report. Perhaps the most important benefit of the IR is the increased exposure it will provide for your research. Making your work freely available online can help you find the widest possible readership and increase the reach of your work. According to what's known as the open access advantage, articles that are freely available online are cited more often by other researchers. As this slide shows, depending on the discipline, this increase has been found to be as high as 600%. Finally, the IR accepts all types of work and can store any type of file, from PDFs and PowerPoints to images, audio and video, and obscure data file types. Before you deposit your work into a repository, you need to make sure that doing so would not violate copyright law. If you would like to submit an article or other work that has been previously published, check the agreement you signed with the publisher. If you transferred your copyright to the publisher, this doesn't necessarily mean that you can't put your work in the repository, but you do need to make sure you comply with the publisher's policies. Many publishers will allow you to share a version of your work in an IR, but the tricky part can be knowing which version is acceptable. The first place to look is, again, your publishing agreement. It should outline the rights you retained over the work, including where you are allowed to share copies and what versions you can share. If you are unable to locate your publishing agreement or it doesn't have the necessary rights information, you can check the Sherpa Romeo database for information about different publishers' guidelines for self-archiving. For each included journal, it outlines whether the preprint, postprint, or publisher's version can be shared, as well as any other relevant copyright information. For future publications, it is also helpful to know that author rights regarding self-archiving can often be negotiated with publishers. Appending an author addendum to your publishing agreement can help you retain certain rights to your work. Spark has a template that you can use to create an author agreement, available at the link on this slide. You'll recall that according to the definition of open access, in order to be truly open, a publication must allow for both unrestricted access and unrestricted use on the part of the user. One way that authors can make their work truly open is by giving it a Creative Commons license. Creative Commons is a nonprofit organization that offers a number of free copyright licenses that content creators can apply to their work in order to retain control over it and allow others to reuse it in a variety of ways. There are 6 Creative Commons license types that vary in the level of restriction applied to the work. For example, whether the creator must be attributed if the work is reused, and whether a user must seek permission to create derivatives of the work. You may have noticed that the title slide of this presentation displayed a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial License, meaning that the presentation may be reused as long as I receive credit as a creator and the use is not for a commercial purpose. It's also important to understand that when you submit your work to an institutional or subject repository, it does not affect your rights to the work in any way. You are still free to submit the work to a publisher or share it on another online venue. You are simply granting the institution, in this case UNC, a non-exclusive license to distribute the work. If you are a UNC researcher or faculty member, I hope this presentation has persuaded you to contribute your work to scholarship and creative works at Digital UNC. I'd like to wrap up the video by guiding you through the upload process, which is simple and only takes a few minutes to complete. First, go to the repository homepage, which is at the URL https://digscholarship.unco.edu. You'll see a My Account link in the top right-hand corner of the page. Click this to be taken to the login screen. Assuming you don't already have an account, you can set one up by clicking on the Sign Up link. This will take you to the account creation page. Once you've created your account and logged in, you'll start on the My Account page. This is where you can manage your account and profile preferences, view readership statistics for your work via the author dashboard, and access files you have uploaded but have not yet been published. To upload your document, navigate to the home page and click on All Collections. Select the Faculty Publications collection. In the sidebar, select Submit Research. You'll be taken to a click-through submission agreement form where you'll be asked to verify that you own the copyright to the work, have secured permission to post any copyright-protected third-party content, and grant UNC non-exclusive rights to distribute the work. Check the box at the bottom of the page to agree to the terms, and then click Continue. The final step is to add metadata describing your work. While the metadata form contains a number of fields, the only ones that are required are title, creator, and date created. To complete your submission, you can upload the file from your computer, or if the file resides on a remote site, you can either import or link out to it. If you have additional files to include, select the Additional Files checkbox before submitting. After clicking Submit, you'll be given the opportunity to upload the additional files on a separate page. Once you've made your submission, you will have the opportunity to review the metadata and revise the information you entered. You may then make another submission or log out of the system. Thank you for watching this presentation on institutional repositories and open access. If you have questions about using scholarship and creative works at Digital UNC, or how the UNC libraries can assist you with the scholarly publishing process, you can contact me at the email on your screen.